Welcome to the Explainer. We're going to talk about something today that so many of us just accept as a part of life: uncomfortable clothes. But what if those painful shoes or that tight jacket aren't just a personal choice? What if they're a symptom of something bigger? Today, we're going to explore the hidden cost of style and what it really tells us about the pressures we all face.
I mean, you've heard this before, right? It's almost a cliche. But a group of researchers at Northwestern University decided, you know what? Let's not just take that for granted. They started asking a simple question: what is the real impact of choosing style over comfort? And let me tell you, the answers they found are pretty eye-opening.
So, to actually study this, they needed a name for it. And they came up with the term PDR clothing. It stands for painful, distracting, or restricting. And that pretty much covers it all, doesn't it? We're talking everything from shoes that pinch your feet to a skirt you're constantly pulling down. So let's get into what that really feels like. First up, the price of style. And no, we're not talking about the price tag. We're talking about that feeling of discomfort. And it's so much more than a minor annoyance. One writer the study quoted put it perfectly. They said it's about wearing clothes designed to make us feel ill at ease, not just in our bodies, but in our minds. And let's be real, this isn't some rare thing we put up with for a fancy party. For a huge number of people, it's just a normal Tuesday. It's that constant low-level hum of discomfort, a strap digging in, a waistband pinching, that many of us have just been taught to ignore as a totally normal part of getting dressed. But this is where the story gets really fascinating. The researchers found that this experience isn't shared equally at all. As soon as they started looking at the data, a massive, impossible-to-ignore gap opened up between genders. The study set out to answer that exact question. And the results? Well, they weren't just a little bit different, they were stark. The numbers basically show two fundamentally different realities when it comes to the clothes we wear every day. And the size of this difference is just staggering. I mean, just take painful shoes. In one study of college students, an incredible 76% of women said, yep, they've worn them. For men, that number was just 23%. That's not a gap, that's a chasm. And this was not just about shoes. Oh no. Across almost every single category of this PDR clothing, the differences were huge. In fact, for certain things, women were found to be up to 12 times more likely to wear them. 12! Okay, so let's break this down even more. When you look at the specific types of discomfort, the pattern just becomes crystal clear. Just look at these numbers. 80% of women wear clothes that need constant adjusting, versus 38% of men. More than half of women wear clothes that leave actual red marks on their body, compared to just 12% of men. And this one is wild. 30% of women reported wearing clothes so tight it made it hard to breathe. Only 6% of men said the same thing. Now let's flip it around for a second. In that same study, the researchers asked who wore none of these uncomfortable things. Well, 13% of men could say, nope, not me. For women, that number was just 1%. For the women in this study, wearing uncomfortable clothes was an almost universal experience. So all of this data just screams one big question. If this clothing is so bad, why are so many people choosing to wear it? Well, the study looked into that too, and the motivations are just as divided as the experiences. When they asked people, why do you put up with this? The answers couldn't have been more different. For women, the number one reason by a landslide was to look attractive. For men, it was almost all about external rules, like what their job required. That contrast right there points to something much, much deeper going on. And the researchers connect this directly to something called objectification theory. The basic idea here is that women are often socialized to see their own bodies from an outside perspective, to really internalize the idea that how their body looks to other people is more important than how it actually feels to them. And that way of thinking leads to a very specific behavior: body surveillance. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's the habit of constantly monitoring how you look. It's that little voice in your head that's always asking, how do I look right now? And certain clothes don't just trigger this, they practically require it. So you can see this is about way more than just blisters or tight jeans. Wearing this kind of PDR clothing takes a real, measurable psychological toll that is so much more than skin deep. The researchers found a direct statistical link. Turns out, the more types of PDR clothing a person wore, and this was true for both men and women, the more they reported engaging in this constant self-monitoring. The clothes we wear are literally tied to how much we police our own appearance. And it works like this powerful feedback loop. Someone who is already focused on their appearance might be more likely to choose PDR clothing to begin with. But then that clothing itself forces them into even more body surveillance because it needs constant adjusting and monitoring. So the clothing choice just reinforces the mental habit.
And that is the real hidden cost. It isn't just the physical pain, it's a mental tax. It is a constant, low-level cognitive distraction. Every bit of brain power you spend adjusting a strap or worrying about a hemline is focus you can't spend on your work, on your ideas, or on the people standing right in front of you.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question to ask ourselves, doesn't it? When you look in your own closet, what is your wardrobe really asking you to sacrifice? Is it your comfort, your freedom of movement? Or maybe, is it even a piece of your own mental focus? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.